May 31st, 2014. Two 12-year-old girls walked their best friend into the woods for a sleepover game and stabbed her 19 times to prove themselves to a faceless man they found on the internet. The victim crawled out alive, covered in blood, and told police exactly who did it. But here's what nobody can answer. When does a made-up story become real enough to kill for? David's Park sits quiet in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Families come here for picnics. Kids ride bikes on the trails. The woods are thick with trees, but paths wind through them, safe and familiar. On the morning of May 31st, 2014, a man was riding his bicycle through those woods when he saw something that made him stop. A girl was crawling on the ground. She was covered in blood. Her shirt was red with it. She looked up at him and whispered that her friends had stabbed her. Then she asked him to help her because she was losing too much blood. That girl was Peyton Leutner. She was 12 years old. She had 19 stab wounds all over her body. Her arms had cuts where she tried to protect herself. Her legs were bleeding. Her stomach had been stabbed so many times the doctors would later say it was a miracle she survived. One of the knife wounds had missed a major artery in her heart by less than 1 millimeter. If the blade had gone just a tiny bit deeper, she would have died in those woods. Police arrived within minutes. Peyton told them everything. She said her two best friends, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire, had done this to her. She said they told her to lie down. She said they told her it would make the bleeding slower. She said they walked away and left her there. The police immediately sent out alerts. Two 12-year-old girls were now suspects in an attempted murder. They were somewhere in Waukesha, possibly armed, possibly dangerous. Officers found Morgan and Anissa just a few hours later. They were walking along Highway 94 heading north out of the city. They were calm. They were not running. They had a backpack with them. Inside the backpack, police found water bottles and snacks. When officers asked them where they were going, the girls said they were walking to Nicollet National Forest. When officers asked why, the girls said they were going to find the Slender Man. When officers asked who that was, the girls looked confused. They said everyone knew who Slender Man was. They said he lived in a mansion in the woods. They said he had been watching them. Then they said if they did not kill someone for him, he would kill their families instead. At first, the police thought this was an excuse. Maybe the girls were lying to avoid punishment. Maybe they had another reason for hurting Peyton and were making up a story. But when detectives interviewed Morgan and Anissa separately, both girls told the exact same story. They described Slender Man the same way. Tall, no face, long arms, always watching. They said they found him on the internet. They said they read about him for months. They said other people had seen him too. They said he was real. They said they had no choice. The detectives pulled up the websites the girls mentioned. They found thousands of stories about Slender Man. They found pictures that looked real but were fake. They found videos of people pretending to be chased by him. They found drawings and fan art and long lists of rules about how to survive if you saw him. The character had been created in 2009 by a man named Eric Knudsen. He made it for a contest on the internet. He used Photoshop to add a tall, thin figure into the background of old pictures. It was supposed to be a scary game. It was fiction. It was never meant to be real. But Morgan Geyser did not know that. Doctors would later discover that Morgan had early-onset schizophrenia. She heard voices that were not there. She saw things that did not exist. And when she found Slender Man on the internet, her brain made him real. She heard him talking to her. She felt him watching her. She believed he would hurt her family if she did not obey. Anissa Wire did not have schizophrenia. Anissa did not hear voices. But Anissa believed Morgan. And together, they decided that killing their best friend was the only way to stay safe. The case file revealed something even more disturbing. The girls had been planning this for 5 months. They researched how to kill someone. They looked up where to stab to cause the most damage. They picked the date. They invited Peyton to a sleepover so she would trust them. They woke up that morning, ate breakfast, played games, and then walked her into the woods. They had chosen the spot ahead of time. Peyton thought they were playing hide and seek. Morgan had brought a kitchen knife from her house, hidden in her jacket. When they got deep enough into the trees where no one could hear, they told Peyton to lie down. And then they started stabbing. 19 times. Over and over until Peyton stopped moving. Then they covered her body with sticks and leaves. Then they walked away. They truly believed they had done the right thing. They believed a monster from the internet had given them no choice. And the question that cracked the case wide open was this: if two normal kids could be convinced that a Photoshop joke was real enough to murder, then what else could the internet make people believe? The investigation moved fast because the girls confessed immediately. They did not try to hide what they had done. They were proud of it. Morgan told detectives she was scared of Slender Man, but she had to obey him. Anissa said it was necessary. She said they did not have a choice. When police asked them to show where they thought Slender Man lived, both girls pointed to the same spot on a map: Nicolet National Forest. It was nearly 300 miles away from Waukesha. They had planned to walk there. They thought if they killed Peyton and then walked to his mansion, Slender Man would let them become his helpers. They called these helpers proxies. They had read about proxies on the internet. Other stories said that people who served Slender Man became his proxies and lived with him forever. The girls wanted that. They wanted to escape their normal lives and live in a mansion in the woods with a monster. Detectives built a timeline of everything that happened. In December of 2013, Morgan discovered Slender Man on a website called Creepypasta Wiki. Creepypasta is internet slang for scary stories that get copied and pasted and shared. The website had thousands of horror stories. Most were obviously fake, but Morgan did not see them as fake. She saw them as evidence. She showed Anissa. Yet Anissa started reading too. For months, the two girls spent hours on the website. They read every story about Slender Man. They looked at pictures. They watched videos on YouTube. They talked about him at school. They drew pictures of him in their notebooks. Teachers noticed, but thought it was just a phase. Parents saw the drawings but did not realize what they meant. On May 30th, 2014, Peyton came over to Morgan's house for a sleepover. It was the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. The three girls watched movies and ate snacks and stayed up late. Peyton had no idea what was going to happen. Morgan and Anissa had decided that morning would be the day. They had already picked the spot in the woods. They had already practiced what they would say. When morning came, they suggested going to the park to play. Peyton agreed. They walked together from Morgan's house to David's park. It took about 15 minutes. Security cameras caught them walking. Peyton was smiling. She was wearing a gray jacket. Morgan had the knife hidden inside her clothes. At around 10 in the morning, they entered the woods. Peyton thought they were playing a game. The attack happened fast. Peyton later said she did not understand what was happening at first. She felt pain and then saw blood. She tried to fight back, but there were two of them. She fell down. She heard them say, "Lie still." She heard them say, "It will be over soon." She played dead because she thought if they believed she was already gone, they might leave. It worked. Morgan and Anissa covered her with leaves and walked away. Peyton waited until she could not hear them anymore. Then she started crawling. And she did not know which direction to go. She just moved towards sounds. She heard a voice and crawled toward it. That voice belonged to the man on the bicycle. He called 911 immediately. Peyton was taken to the hospital and rushed into surgery. Doctors said she had lost a dangerous amount of blood. They said if she had been found even 10 minutes later, she might not have survived. They counted 19 separate stab wounds. Some were shallow. Some were deep. The one near her heart was the worst. It had come within 1 millimeter of killing her instantly. While Peyton was in surgery, police were interviewing Morgan and Anissa. A forensic psychiatrist named Dr. Kenneth Robbins was brought in to evaluate Morgan. He discovered that she had been experiencing hallucinations for months. She heard Slender Man talking to her. She saw him standing in her room at night. She believed he could read her thoughts. She believed he controlled her. This was not normal fear. This was psychosis. Her brain was creating things that were not real and telling her they were true. Dr. Robbins diagnosed her with early-onset schizophrenia. He said she was unable to tell the difference between what was real and what was not real. In her mind, Slender Man was as real as her parents or her teachers or the police officers asking her questions. But Anissa was different. Anissa did not have schizophrenia. Anissa was not hearing voices. Doctors examined her and found no evidence of psychosis. So why did she believe? Psychiatrists introduced a term called shared psychotic disorder, also known as folie à deux. It means madness shared by two. It happens when one person's delusion spreads to another person, usually someone close to them. Morgan believed in Slender Man because her brain was sick. Anissa believed in Slender Man because Morgan convinced her. But that raised a new problem. If Anissa knew right from wrong, if she was not mentally ill, then was she just evil? Or had the internet done something to her brain that medicine could not measure? The case forced everyone to ask uncomfortable questions. Can children be charged with adult crimes? Can fiction be blamed for violence? Is a website responsible if someone believes a fake story? Parents tried to sue the creators of Creepypasta Wiki. Lawyers argued that the website should have had warnings. But the law said the website was not responsible for what users believed. The girls had found Slender Man on their own. Nobody forced them to read those stories. Nobody told them to kill. The internet had simply given them access to a story, and their minds had done the rest. The revelation that ended Act 2 was this. Anissa did not need to be mentally ill to believe. She just needed to want to believe. And the internet had made that easier than ever before. Before the stabbing, Slender Man was just another internet horror story. Kids shared it at sleepovers. People made jokes about it. Nobody took it seriously. After the stabbing, everything changed. Schools across the country banned students from talking about Slender Man. Parents checked their children's internet history. News stations ran stories warning about dangerous websites. The character that had been created as harmless fun was now evidence in a criminal trial. 2 children had almost killed their best friend because of something they read online, and people wanted to know who was to blame. Some people said it was the parents' fault for not monitoring what their kids did online. Others said it was the website's fault for hosting scary stories without warnings. Some said it was Morgan's fault for being mentally ill. Others said it was Anissa's fault for going along with it. But nobody could agree on one answer because the truth was too complicated. Mental illness, internet culture, childhood friendships, and fiction had all mixed together in a way that made violence feel necessary to 2 12-year-old girls. And once people started looking closer, they found that Waukesha was not the only place this had happened. In September of 2014, just 4 months after Peyton was stabbed, a 14-year-old girl in Florida set her family's house on fire. When firefighters asked her why, she said Slender Man told her to. In August of 2014, 2 girls in Ohio grabbed kitchen knives and tried to attack their father. When police arrested them, they said they were trying to become proxies. More cases appeared. A boy in Louisiana claimed Slender Man made him hurt his younger brother. A teenager in Pennsylvania said she saw Slender Man in her room every night and he told her to hurt herself. Mental health experts started calling it the Slender Man effect. They said that horror stories online could trigger delusions in people who were already vulnerable. They said the internet made it easy for mental illness to find fuel. The court case became a battle over reality itself. Morgan's lawyers argued that she could not be held responsible because she truly believed Slender Man was real. They brought in doctors who testified that her schizophrenia made her unable to understand that the stories were fiction. They said charging her as an adult for murder was cruel because she was sick, not evil. Prosecutors argued that mental illness did not erase guilt. They said Morgan knew stabbing was wrong. They said she planned the attack for months. They said she researched where to stab to cause the most damage. They said that required logic and planning. They said she might be mentally ill, but she still chose to kill. Anissa's case was even harder to explain. She did not have schizophrenia. She did not hear voices. Psychiatrists who examined her said she understood reality. So why did she help? Her lawyers said she was influenced by Morgan. They said she was scared of losing her only friend. They said she believed Morgan was in danger and helping her was the only way to keep her safe. Prosecutors said that was not an excuse. They said Anissa held Peyton down. They said Anissa told Peyton to lie still so she would lose blood slower. They said Anissa knew exactly what she was doing. They said believing in something does not make murder okay. Police reports described the crime scene in detail. The woods where Peyton was stabbed were quiet that morning. It was Memorial Day weekend, so most families were sleeping in or having breakfast. No one was on the trails. No one heard Peyton scream. Blood soaked into the dirt and leaves. The knife was found nearby, still covered in blood. Detectives measured the distance from the attack site to the nearest house. It was over 200 feet. Too far for anyone to hear. Morgan later told police that the blood was redder than she expected. She said Peyton's eyes looked different after they stabbed her. She said it did not feel real even while it was happening. She said it felt like a dream or a movie. Peyton spent weeks in the hospital recovering. She had surgery to repair the damage to her organs. She needed physical therapy to regain strength in her arms and legs. She had scars all over her body that would never go away. When reporters asked her family for a statement, they said Peyton just wanted to be left alone. They said she did not understand why her best friends had tried to kill her. They said she had nightmares. They said she was afraid to go outside. They said the physical wounds would heal, but the emotional wounds might never close. As the case went to trial, more disturbing details came out. Morgan's parents had noticed she was acting strange for months before the stabbing. She talked to herself. She drew pictures of a tall man with no face. She stopped sleeping well, but they thought it was normal preteen behavior. They did not know she was hallucinating. Anissa's parents said their daughter seemed fine. She was polite, got good grades, had friends. They had no idea she was planning a murder. Both sets of parents were investigated to see if they had missed warning signs. Child Protective Services found no evidence of abuse or neglect. The girls had come from normal homes. They had gone to normal schools. They had normal lives. And then the internet gave them a monster to believe in. The most terrifying fact in the entire case was this. Peyton survived only because she was smart enough to play dead. At 12 years old, she understood that if her attackers thought she was already gone, they might leave her alone. So she lay still even though she was in horrible pain. She stayed quiet even though she was terrified. She waited until Morgan and Anissa walked away. Then she crawled through the woods, using sticks and branches to pull herself forward, leaving a trail of blood behind her until she found help. If she had panicked, if she had cried out, if she had tried to run, she would have bled out in those woods. Her own survival depended on outsmarting her murderers. And her murderers were her two best friends who believed they were doing the right thing for a monster that never existed. The legal system did not know what to do with Morgan and Anissa. They were 12 years old when they committed the crime. Charging them as adults seemed harsh, but letting them go seemed dangerous. In February of 2017, Anissa Wire was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. The jury decided that even though she did not have schizophrenia, she had been so influenced by Morgan that she could not tell right from wrong. She was sentenced to 25 years in a mental health institution. In February of 2018, Morgan Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide, but mentally ill. She was sentenced to 40 years in a mental hospital. The judge said she was too dangerous to be released, but too sick to go to prison. In 2021, Anissa Wire was released after serving 7 years. Doctors said she no longer believed in Slender Man. They said she understood what she had done was wrong. They said she was no longer a threat to anyone. She was released under strict conditions. She had to continue therapy. She had to stay away from the internet. She had to check in with authorities regularly. If she violated any of those rules, she would go back. Morgan Geyser remains in a mental institution as of 2024. She is now in her 20s. She has been receiving treatment for schizophrenia for 10 years. Her doctors say she has made progress. She understands that Slender Man is not real. She knows he was created by someone on the internet as fiction. But she has also told therapists that sometimes, late at night, she still feels like he is watching her. Her brain knows he is fake, but her illness makes him feel real. She is eligible to petition for conditional release, but so far, she has not been freed. Peyton Leutner graduated from high school. She rarely speaks to the media. In the few interviews she has given, she said she has forgiven Morgan and Anissa. She said she does not think about them much anymore. She said she just wants to live a normal life. She has scars all over her body that she will carry forever. She has said that people ask her about them sometimes, and she tells them she was in an accident. She does not like talking about what really happened. Her family moved away from Waukesha to start over somewhere new. David's Park, where the attack happened, is still open. For a while, people left flowers and notes at the spot where Peyton was found. Eventually, those were removed. The park went back to normal, but people in Waukesha still remember. They still talk about the day two little girls tried to kill their friend for an internet monster. What we still do not know is how to stop this from happening again. Slender Man was just one story. There are thousands more like it online. Some are about ghosts, some are about demons, some are about secret government projects, and people believe them. Not just kids, adults too. The internet has made it easy for anyone to find a community that believes the same things they do, no matter how strange or dangerous those beliefs are. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. When you believe something, and you look for evidence that supports it and ignore evidence that does not. The internet gives you endless evidence for anything you want to believe. If you think the world is flat, you can find thousands of websites that agree. If you think vaccines are poison, you can find doctors who will tell you that. If you think a faceless monster lives in the woods, you can find pictures and videos and stories that make it seem real. And once you believe, it is very hard to stop. There have been other cases since Waukesha. Families have been torn apart by conspiracy theories found online. People have committed violence because of things they read on forums. Children have hurt themselves trying to recreate challenges they saw on social media. The methods change, but the pattern stays the same. Someone finds a story online. They start to believe it. They find other people who believe it too. They convince each other it is real. And then someone gets hurt. Experts have called for better internet safety laws. They have asked for warnings on websites that host horror content. They have suggested that social media platforms should monitor what children are allowed to see. But the internet is too big to control. There are too many websites, too many stories, too many ways for dangerous ideas to spread. We have always had myths and legends. Every culture has scary stories. But those stories used to be passed down slowly. Parents told them to children. Elders shared them around campfires. Communities decided together what was real and what was pretend. The internet removed all of that. Now a story can be created on a Monday and believed by millions of people by Friday. There is no filter. Yea, there is no elder to say this is just a story. There is no community to reality check your beliefs. There is just you, a screen, and endless information that can make anything seem true. Morgan Geyser was asked during one of her therapy sessions if she still believed in Slender Man. She said she knew he was not real. The doctors had explained it to her many times. She understood that he was created by a man named Eric Knudsen for a contest. She understood that all the pictures were fake. She understood that the stories were fiction. But then she admitted something that her doctors found chilling. She said that even though she knows he is not real, she still cannot shake the feeling that he is out there. She said logic tells her one thing, but her emotions tell her another. She said she does not trust her own mind anymore. And maybe that is the real horror of this case. Not that two girls believed in a monster, but that even after years of treatment, even after understanding the truth, the belief still lingers. The line between fiction and reality, once crossed, is almost impossible to uncross. Peyton's scars are real. Morgan's mental illness is real. Anissa's 7 years in a mental institution were real. The blood in those woods was real. And somewhere online, right now, a child is discovering Slender Man for the first time. They are reading the stories. They are looking at the pictures. They are starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he could be real. And we have no way to stop them. We have no way to protect them. Because the internet does not forget. The stories never die. And the next person who decides that fiction is real enough to kill for could be anyone. The case files remain open to interpretation. The courts have given their verdicts. The doctors have made their diagnoses. But the question that stays with us is this. If a made-up monster can convince children to murder, then what else can the internet make us believe? And how many more people will get hurt before we figure out the answer?